We both have seen the depth chart, and if you're out there, most of you who are listening to this probably have seen the depth chart by now. So let's go ahead and rattle off who we think are going to be the team stat leaders. We got different categories, and we can just sort of go tit for tat, and maybe we'll have the same person for each category. But we got rushing leader, rushing touchdowns, leading tackler, leading sack getter, and interception leader. So let's go rushing leader first. Who do you got?
I'm just going to go really simple here. Barring any injury, I'm going to go RB1. I'm going to go Gabe Ervin. Not really breaking headlines or anything. But starting running backs usually have the most rushing yards.
I agree with you. How many yards do you think Gabe Ervin will rush for this year?
I would say he has over 800.
Over 800. So not 1,000.
Not 1,000.
I'm hoping for the Kool-Aid. I'm hoping that we have a very balanced attack. I don't think it'll be the centerpiece of our offense, but I think it'll be a very important part of our offense that allows it to open up a lot. So I'm hoping he gets 1,000 plus. I'm hoping it's in the 1,050-yard range. Rushing touchdowns. So that's a little bit interesting because is Gabe going to be that goal line back, or is it going to be somebody else, or are they going to go with Jeff Sims a lot in that role, like they did with Adrian?
Or fullback.
Or the fullback. Oh, yeah, that's another element of this. I mean, Janarian Bonner and I believe Barrett Lindenbrecht are the two deep on the fullback chart. So, yeah, so who do you think is going to be the leader rushing touchdowns for Nebraska this year?
So I'm going to go with Ramir Johnson because I think that Gabe Ervin is definitely going to be the ground and pound back, your steady horse, but it's very much going to be by committee. And a lot of the times when somebody has a good run, somebody's got all the way down the field, they want fresh legs in there to push it across the line. And that's what happens with RB2s a lot. Sometimes they have more touchdowns, but less yards. So I'm going to go with Ramir Johnson just for some parity here.
I like that pick. I actually am going to go with Anthony Grant, and I'll explain to you why. It's because you look at who got the single-digit numbers. Now, that's voted on by the team. 8 out of the 10 single-digit numbers have gone to a defensive player. The only 2 offensive players that got them were Jeff Sims and Billy Kemp. I'm not saying that this is a slight to Gabe. We haven't seen Gabe yet. But I don't know. The coaches have been high on Gabe, but maybe the players behind the scenes, because it was team voted on, I don't know. Maybe they're just seeing running back as more of a lot of people are going to play sort of role rather than just Gabe is the guy. So with that being said, I just think Anthony Grant with a good offensive line can be really good in short yardage situations. So I'm going to go with Anthony Grant. I think he's still going to be a big factor on this team, and I think that they're going to give him the ball in red zone situations. The other easy pick on this is Jeff Sims. I mean, Jeff Sims, obviously, like in those situations, we've just seen it time and time again.
You know, when you get down in that position, making design quarterback runs or, you know, making a broken play work, that's how those numbers kind of go up for someone like Jeff Sims. But rushing yards, like when Adrian was our quarterback and he was constantly had the most rushing yards on the team, that's not a good sign. That means you don't really have a run game.
Let me add one more category to this real quick. Receiving touchdowns. So it really depends on who you think the red zone guy will be. For me, my mind immediately goes to Billy Kemp, but there could be a number of dudes. I just think that Billy Kemp is a proven commodity. He really was one of the better slot receivers in the ACC, but he's come in, he's earned a single digit. Everyone looks at him as the guy, and I just think they're going to trust Billy Kemp a lot in those situations.
A guy like Billy Kemp, like being a slot receiver, you do get a lot of yards, you get a lot of receptions. Unless you break some here and there, you don't get a lot of touchdowns. You're the gadget guy, you get open, you get us down there, and then they pound it in. That just happens with slot receivers a lot. Actual touchdowns, they do get some. But, you know, true slot receivers really are the guys that get you yards, get open.
No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with somebody that I think they're going to trust more down in that position just because of his size and everything like that. And it's going to go IG3, IGC. I don't know why I said IG3. IGC. And just because he has good size, I just kind of think of him as like that guy that, you know, they might toss up those 50-50 fade to the corner too. So
Sure, I could see that, especially since he showed that he can go over the top against Northwestern. I mean, that was a beautiful catch. He had to reach over a guy to catch the ball, and that's exactly what you need in those types of situations. Yeah. But the other guy that I had on my mind that's obvious for this category to me is Thomas Fidone. I mean, just for the same reasons you mentioned, because we were really thinking receiver, but it's receiving touchdowns, so tight ends in that category too. And
I probably would have.
I just think he's, like 6'4". I mean, 6'4", 6'5".
And you just have the feeling like this dude he has a great work ethic. He always has. I mean, you can just tell by how he carries himself. And he put on a ton of weight from the off season and just his rehab and everything. But you just feel like he got hurt the past 2 years after making strides and like being like, oh, this kid's really good with one, well, let's say 1.5 of like NFL talent at that position with like Stoll and Vokalek. And he was probably going to beat out Vokalek for that number 2 position when Stoll was a senior. So you just think that he has something coming. He's either going to have something coming or he's just going to be one of those people that keeps getting hurt. And I don't want to see that for him. So you just have a feeling that like you just look at him and how he moves and carries himself, and he's just primed for something. I don't know.
Yeah. It could be a big breakout year for Thomas Fidone for sure. Okay, so let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. Leading tackler. So to me, one name immediately jumps right into the mix, and that's Luke Reimer. Luke Reimer has been our leading tackler the last 2 years, I believe, and definitely last year. But he's fast. This is an aggressive style defense. I think he's primed to just be the everything man, the all over the field guy. Luke does have that sort of mentality where you just look at the scrum. He's always in the middle of it at the end of every play. So I'm going to have to go with Luke Reimer there.
So I'm going to go with the Chief. Yeah, Borders. And only because look at him. I don't know. Yeah. Just if you look at him, he looks the part. He looks like a man among boys in some instances. And I'm just like, he's coming from a conference and just a little bit of experience there. And I think he's gonna have a good year.
I agree. But okay, leading tackler, I had Luke Reimer and you had Chief Borders. Okay. Yep. So leading sack getter. This is where it's interesting because the structure of the defense is different. For instance, Ty Robinson, I believe, is listed as defensive end. So the way that this shakes out could be interesting depending on, how many people they're bringing and who's where. But on pass rush situations, I just think that he wasn't even named to the starting defense, but there's something about MJ Sherman. It's sort of gone quiet on the MJ Sherman front the last couple of days for 2 reasons, because the depth chart was released and Chief Borders, there's an or between him and MJ. Yeah. But today Chief was the one who got a black shirt. So it looks like Chief is the starting jack. So if that's the case, it's either Chief or MJ. When they both transferred, I remembered a Georgia insider going on a podcast and talking about both guys, and he'd seen both guys play, comparing Chief and MJ. He was like, Chief will be good. He's a good locker room guy. He's a solid player, but MJ could be great. That's what he said about MJ. I just think MJ is going to be that pass rush situation type of guy, especially with Jamari Butler being banged up, as they said earlier. He's supposed to be back for the season, but MJ and Chief are both going to play a lot, and I'll go with MJ for sack leader.
Cool. Sack leader. I'm going to go with Ty Robinson. I don't know, but if you look at the kid, right, he did not have a great start, just like a lot of the defense last year. He kind of settled in throughout the year and finished pretty okay. But if you look at him, he leaned down a little bit. So one of the really bad things about him last year was his mobility. And I think that's going to be handled because the size that kid has is just it's right where it needs to be. But he leaned up a little bit, got a little stronger with a lot of the team, and I think that he's primed for a good breakout year. So
okay, so let's move to the defensive backfield. Who will be the interceptions leader? This is the final category.
Malcolm Hartzog.
Yeah, I mean that's the easy pick. Dude's got a nose for the ball. The other picks that you could go for, I mean, the winner of media perception of the latter half of camp has been Deshaun Singleton, who was mentioned by the coaches, which is always a good sign, who earned a black shirt today and a single-digit jersey the other day. He's going to be playing safety. So, I mean, but Malcolm Hartzog's in that cornerback position. So it really just depends. It really just depends on how that shakes out. With the cornerback position, you're going to be playing the man and the ball the whole every time.
And he's short.
Yes.
Hartzog is short. So I mean, he could definitely get mossed, but he has a good knack for making the play on the ball, just from what we saw from him last year, and he's even has more experience now, and so I think that's really going to help him to really take a next step. That's why I think it is an easy pick.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, if you picked Ty Robinson for this, then I would question it. But I mean, the only time that would have been like trending towards being accurate was when Sue was here. But even then, we had like Gomes and O'Hanlon and those dudes making interceptions all the time. So, but it was just crazy because that year Sue had 3 interceptions as a defensive lineman, and 2 of them like he returned for a touchdown or something like that. It's crazy.